A lot of people want to know how to make a living working for yourself from home, and a popular way now today is called wholesaling. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you what wholesaling even is, why I do it virtually, and how I even do it virtually. And if you're new to the channel, my name's Justin Wrong, and I've helped hundreds of people make money in real estate. So first, I really want to define what wholesaling even is. So you might have heard of flipping houses, where basically you're like buying a house, fixing it up, and then reselling it. It's for a profit, right? So wholesaling is kind of similar, but not the exact same. So here's what wholesaling is. So it's kind of like the first initial process of flipping house, where you're gonna make an offer to a seller on a home. So you write up an offer, you send it to the seller of the home, they sign to accept your offer, and once they sign, you have it's called a fully executed offer, a fully signed offer. So now you take this fully signed agreement between you and the seller, and you sell the contract to someone else so that they buy the home and not you. And then you make a profit. And I'm gonna kind of explain exactly how, but that's the general process. So for example, let's say a seller is asking for someone to buy their home for $100,000, and the home is worth a lot more. It's worth $300,000, and they're only willing to sell at a discount because they have like a very serious issue that they need to tend to. So they need to sell it fast. It could be like foreclosure, it could be maybe they got a divorce and they need to sell the house fast. Like there's a lot of different reasons why someone sells at a discount. So you find a very heavily discounted property, you offer to buy it so that they want $100,000, you're like, okay, I'll pay $100,000. You write up a $100,000 offer, they accept your offer, so now you have that signed agreement to buy that house for $100,000. Now, what you're gonna do now is you're gonna bring the contract to your other investor friends, or maybe investors that you might know, and ask them like, hey, like, I'm trying to wholesale this house. I'm trying to sell this contract. Who wants to buy the house for $120,000, which is like $20,000 more than what you have it under contract for. And once you find someone to buy it at that $120,000 price, they essentially take over the rights to purchase the house. And so there's a difference of $20,000. So remember, you had the home under contract to buy for $100,000, and you found someone else who's willing to pay $120,000. So what happens here is that $20,000 difference, that's what you make as a wholesaler. It's called an assignment fee. That's basically what you get paid for finding the deal and connecting the seller to the buyer. Like that's the hard work of the wholesalers, to find the deal, to negotiate it, and then to find the buyer. Like that's what wholesaling is. I guess here's how the money situation and how the money flows between that. So if you buy it, or if you have it under contract for $100,000, someone else is at $120,000 because they want to actually buy it at $120,000. How it works is the seller, who originally had accepted a $100,000 offer, they get their $100,000. So they get the $100,000, and the $20,000 difference, that's paid to you, the wholesaler. So everyone's happy because the seller wanted $100,000 anyways, and then you as a wholesaler wanted to make a profit for finding a really good deal and negotiating it and just finding another buyer. And then the buyer, they're happy because they still are getting this home at a very big discount. They're getting it for $120,000 when the home's worth $300,000. So they still have room to maybe fix it up and resell it so that they can flip the house and still make money. So everyone is happy, and that's what wholesaling is. It's being the middleman between the buyer and the seller. Now, I don't want you to confuse this with being a real estate agent. This is absolutely not real estate agent work. A real estate agent is someone who represents the seller in their best interests. They want them to list the home with them, and they earn a commission off the seller. The seller usually pays them. So that's what a real estate agent does, and they help the seller sell their house. A wholesaler, they're simply selling their asset. They're selling the contract they have. So a very big thing that I hear a lot of wholesalers say that they should not say at all is that, hey, I'm selling a house for $120,000. You're not selling a house. Like, you are wholesaling the house. You are assigning your contract to someone else so that they could buy the house, but you're not selling a house, you're wholesaling it. So please do not say that if you're a new wholesaler and you're like, hey, like I got this deal under contract and I'm trying to sell it. Like that could get you in a lot of trouble. So don't say stuff like that. But the wholesaler and realtor is very different. As a wholesaler, you're not representing anyone. You're just representing yourself. In a nutshell, I know that was kind of a lot, but that's what wholesaling is. And a lot of times people hear of wholesaling and think you could only do this in person. So for example, people think that if you're living in Fresno, California, that you can only wholesale houses in Fresno, California, because you're actually there. You can meet the person and the seller in person, and you can find the buyer in person, and the title company's there, like everyone's there. So while being in person does help, it's not absolutely necessary. So I actually wholesale houses virtually, meaning I live in Las Vegas. That's in Nevada, if you don't know. And I wholesale houses in California. I also buy houses in California, but everything's done virtually. Like I never look at properties anymore besides FaceTimes or pictures or just like videos I get. Like that's the only times I personally see the property with my eyes. I'm never there in person, so you don't have to be there in person. And the reason why that is because I didn't start that way. I started in Fresno, California, that's where I lived, and I wholesaled and I flipped and I bought rentals in Fresno, California. And so that's what I did in person, and it was pretty good to learn because I got to meet all the sellers mostly in person and kind of negotiate better because I was in person. Like they had a face to attach. Like, okay, like this is a guy, he's like super trustworthy because I met him, he knows what he's talking about, he sounds like he can really help me, and I can. It's easy to build rapport with these sellers to get and negotiate these deals when you're in person, but it's not necessary. And that's really the only thing is if you can talk really well over the phone, you can still close deals, maybe like negotiate these deals over the phone. It's harder, I will say that it is harder to close a deal on the phone versus in person, but if absolutely necessary, you can rely on someone else on the ground. So like, for example, this is kind of what I do. I live in Vegas, and if I'm wholesaling a house in California, I'm trying to get something under contract. So I'm trying to make an offer to a seller and I want them to accept it. But oftentimes I deal with older sellers and they're not really comfortable with like DocuSign, which is like the internet digital signing, because they're old school. And a lot of them like, can I talk to someone in person? And I'm like, no, that's no problem at all. Like, let me send my guy or whoever is working for me as my outside sales agent, go in person to meet them and connect a face to the business. And oftentimes that helps me close deals. You can absolutely do it virtually, and you don't even have to go that route if you don't want to, of hiring someone on the ground. Like you can absolutely do it just closing on the phone. And you will lose out on deals, I will say though. Like if you try to only close deals on the phone virtually, and you run into an older seller or someone who just does not want to sign anything with a stranger on the phone, you're gonna lose out on the deal if you can't have someone meet them in person and be able to close the deal in person. So I will say that, but the reason why I do it virtually is because when I lived there in Fresno, I only moved to Vegas in my later years. So I've only been in Vegas for a year and a half right now. And when I made the move, I had a pretty big decision to make. I was like, okay, I could either keep wholesaling and buying houses in California, or I can learn the Vegas market. And I was already a realtor in Fresno, California for a couple years, and I knew the market. Like I knew it was like my backyard, and it still is my backyard. And so I was just so comfortable with that market. I'm like, I don't want to learn the Vegas market. I want to know what I know, and I want to see if I can do this flipping and the wholesaling thing virtually without ever seeing the property. And turns out I could. There are some challenges, yes, but overall it was doable, and I didn't know like how doable it was until I was put and forced in the situation after I moved. I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So that's why I do it. Here's the how. The how of like specifically talking about wholesaling, like I said, the real thing that you need, really it's good sales ability. It's the ability to talk to people, because when it's wholesaling, you're trying to get a seller to sell their home to you, right? And if you want a seller to sell the home to you, you have to build trust. Most people will not sell to someone without having some type of rapport or trust built. And maybe this doesn't apply to like on-market deals with the MLS, because the seller, when they list their homes, they have agents to represent them and they trust the agent. But if you're just dealing with a seller directly, like it's you the buyer, them the seller, or you the wholesaler, them the seller, if that's the case, then you have to build some type of rapport for them to trust you. Like that's just how it works. And if you have a poor speaking ability or poor sales ability, so you can't really listen to people really well, and you can't understand their pain and their emotions and why they really want to sell, it's gonna be hard for you. Like you're gonna get better over time if you just put the reps in and get the volume in. So you talk to a lot of sellers, you fail a lot, which is okay, and then you just get better at it. You will get better over time, but it's gonna take a lot longer if you don't really work and be intentional about trying to speak better. So that's the big thing about wholesaling virtually, is that you have to have good sales ability. And if not, it would be best as well to have someone on the ground called an outside sales agent, also known as an OSA, like abbreviated OSA, to close deals when you can't on the phone. And when I say close deals, what I mean by that is trying to get a seller to accept an offer. Because a lot of them, like I said, they just don't want to accept an offer from someone they just barely talked to on the phone, even if it took months of talking to. Sometimes you have people who really just want a face-to-face interaction. That's perfectly okay. That's a very normal request. But some people are perfectly okay with just talking to a stranger and like, yeah, like it's perfectly fine. I think over time, like as we get older, I'm pretty sure people will be more comfortable with just dealing with people on the phone and trusting them, just because everything's becoming more digitized. But right now, we have a lot of older people, in my opinion, who are the main people, at least from what I've noticed, who are the ones not comfortable like signing anything without meeting someone in person. So I think that might change over time, but for the most part, you need to have good sales ability if you want to do this virtually and work from home. And it helps to have someone on the ground to help close deals. And those are the main differences of wholesaling in person versus virtually. Like it's just those two things, and that's it. At first I thought like it would be super hard to wholesale virtually. And I guess another thing would be if you're comfortable, like you could also have someone confirm the condition of the home before getting it under contract. So we call this a boots on the ground. Someone who you trust on the ground to verify the home of like what it actually is. Like for example, if I'm talking to a seller and they send me pictures or videos of the home, but maybe they're super old pictures and I didn't know they're old pictures, and the home looks super nice. I'm like, wow, this is a great deal. And then if I didn't have a boots on the ground, I might end up overpaying for something that I didn't realize what the real condition was. However, if I had a boots on the ground, someone on the ground by the property to kind of check it out and take pictures of the home or videos or FaceTime me, walk through the home, like then I would learn, oh, the condition of this home is actually way worse than these pictures the seller sent me. So it's also good to have someone confirm the condition. You can also take care of this just with your contract. You can say, hey, if this isn't a condition that's not what we said, then like I'm not actually buying it. So you can have stuff in your contract to say certain stuff like that too, but I guess that's the third thing, is having a good boots on the ground helps a lot for certain situations. Also, if you want help to grow your real estate business, click on the link in the description for a free strategy session. Peace.